Oh my God, don't
Jesus
tell me.
Christ, I don't
Five
know what is
seconds
going
That's
on.
so
left.
good.
5 seconds left.
Do okay, 5 seconds left, guys. Okay. So we're going to be live in five, four, and we're live. Thank you so much. New episode of Polybius where we discuss the possible applications of Web3 and the metaverse and generative AI in the travel space. I don't even remember which episode this is. It's been around for quite a few months now. So thank you for sticking with us. Today we do have two very well known guests in our podcast, and Luca is one of them, and Salman, you've been with us for a few episodes, and then we got Ellie as well. So as always, guys, I don't want to waste any time by talking and saying stuff about the podcast. So let's go straight into the introduction, and then we start talking about the main topic of the day, and that is Web3 marketing. So Luca, can you introduce yourself in a few words and tell us what you're doing right now and what is exciting about what you do?
All right. Thank you, Simone. Uh, I started a business many years ago, a bit like Airbnb before Airbnb, and I traveled the world because I was making a bit of money with it until Airbnb came. And then since 2017, I am the blockchain in travel guy in a way. Like I focus 100% on the intersection between blockchain or Web3, as they call now, and travel. So I've been trying many things and thinking a lot and writing a lot about it. So it's a very interesting subject for me, and I'm happy to share my thoughts here.
And okay, and then Luca is always it's very you don't really want to talk about all the different things you do, but this is like just a fraction of the story. It's really interesting story actually. He's got a book out. You can check it out. Unfortunately, I think it's only in Italian at this moment. Luca,
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah.
yeah, okay, that's always a problem. But other than that, it does have an amazing Web3 in travel podcast. If I remember correctly, that is called that is titled
Yeah.
Web3 in travel, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can go and check it out. We did something together a few weeks ago. We recorded an episode together, so check it out if you want to know more about Web3 in travel. Luca is definitely the guy. And then we got Salman. Salman, you've been here a few times already, so just a short introduction. Tell us a little more about yourself.
Sure thing. I am a entrepreneur, futurist keynote speaker, founder and CEO of Meta Designers, and currently the innovation strategy manager at Metagate Summit.
Wow, this was scripted. That was perfect. And again, Salman always has very interesting angles when it comes to Web3. So let's see how this goes. And then we got Ellie. Ellie, I don't remember. Have you've been on the podcast once, right?
Yeah, I came once already.
Was it the last time when we had a few technical glitches and you sit next to a Japanese robot for like a good part of the episode? I don't remember.
No, but that sounds fun.
Okay. Okay, so Ellie, can you tell us a little more about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Ali, and my focus has been how do we, Web3, blockchain, and AI, how do we use those technologies in order to improve people's mental health, right? So right now we're using AI art as a way of, processing some things, some emotions, and we're offering the ability to kind of mint our memories and our gratitude as NFTs. So yeah, just exploring that tech in order to disrupt the mental health market a little bit.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And this is a topic that is really close to my heart, Ellie. I've done a full podcast last year about it. talking about Suicide Prevention Day. And so again, thank you for what you're doing even outside of the travel space. Okay, guys, let's start to put things into perspective. And we were talking before the live, and I said that I just came back from 6 weeks of expensive travel, and I had the privilege of talking to many people. And what I see right now is kind of like a little difference in opinions. And again, I'm not very dogmatic when it comes to that. I don't know what is the right answer, so I would like to hear from you. And when it comes to Web3 marketing, and that's the topic of the episode today, it looks like we start creating two different approaches, right? So we got a more Web3 approach, meaning we are focusing on Web3 users that already know how to use decentralized applications, wallets, and crypto and blockchain. And we're just focusing on that niche that is growing, of course, but it's still a niche to a certain extent. Or a more Web 2.5 approach, and that is using Web3 infrastructure, but by providing a more Web 2 kind of user interface. And again, I'm not sure if one approach is better than the other. I'm not even sure if maybe the coexistence of the two approaches will be the best way to go. So I'm curious to hear about you, and if you do have some examples, feel free to name them to understand how do you see the future of Web3 in marketing, and if you think that we should focus more on Web3 users now and just wait until the user base increases, or if we should, to a certain extent, tone it down a little, the Web3 experience, focus more on Web2 interfaces, and just use blockchain as an infrastructure. And look at you being a pioneer in that. So I would start with you because again, you were talking about blockchain in the travel space where most people didn't even know what a blockchain was. So what is your thought on that? We go Web3 or we go Web 2.5?
I think at this stage, it doesn't it doesn't really matter. I mean, you try things and see what works, right? So, and it also depends a lot on who you're trying to target, right? If you have a Web3 only app, you should go Web3 and attract the kind of users who want to use your app and can use your app. If you're doing a more hybrid app, then you definitely should try to attract also the Web2 users. So I agree with you. We can't be dogmatic here. We just try and see what works, right? But in terms of where this is going, I start to have some ideas. I think that the future will be about Web3 marketing for Web3 apps, which have something different from today, which are managed by wallets, which are, sorry, I'm making a bit convulsed here, but new kinds of wallets. So I think the solution will be new kinds of wallets. Until now, we had only the seed phrase wallet, which basically is a wallet which is easy to set up and even easier to basically lose everything you have, right? You get these 12 words, 24 words, you write them down on a piece of paper, and next thing you know, your piece of paper is gone, or you clicked on a link on Discord and you lost all your money and everything else. So definitely
Luca,
the technology we have today for, yeah.
Wait, let me stop you for a second though. Can you
Yeah.
expand a little bit, and for people
Of
that
course.
don't know what a wallet is, because I think that for a lot of people, a wallet is an application where you store your cryptocurrencies, and that is way more than that. Can you explain a little bit why a wallet is so crucial in engaging with Web3 applications?
Yeah. Pre-wallet, it's like all everything we have is in a bank, right? So your Instagram account or your Airbnb account is stored in the bank. The bank is Instagram. The bank is Airbnb. Very useful, very convenient until the moment they decide to shut down your account. So you do not have control, right? So wallets introduce a new possibility, which is keep the money in your house. All right, so nobody can. It's in your house. It's under your control, which also means that you have to be as secure as a bank. And good luck with that,
Yeah.
because the technology a bank has to secure the money is very sophisticated, and the technology you can use in your home to secure money cannot be that sophisticated. Uh, that's great for people who put the time to learn this technology, like how to keep the seed phrase, so these words, this password basically
Yeah.
safe, but it's very bad for the rest of the population, like the 95 or 99%.
Mm.
So it's been a lot of fun for in these years using this kind of technology, but then we came to the realization if we want to onboard the rest, we need to change. And basically, it's changing. There's a lot of new research in wallets to make them easier to manage. And just the other day, I was really amazed by, I was able to basically create a wallet through Safe, which is one of the companies doing wallets, simply by connecting my Google account, right?
Oh
And
wow, that's
this
great.
is,
Okay.
yeah, without seed phrase or anything. Of course, you give up control, but in a way, look, it's very good to have full control of your money or your digital identity or your NFTs, as long as if you are as long as you are proficient to do that, and most people are not, right? So basically, to go back to the question is, we will interact with Web3 apps in a more comfortable way, safer for most people, and also less sovereign. So we will give up a little bit of sovereignty, a little bit of independence, right? But the good thing is that each one of us can choose how much control to retain. And like, I personally want to have full control of Bitcoin, which I intend to keep for the next 20 years, while I don't care too much about having control of a wallet for a video game, which I'm going to play for 2 months. So there's going to be so many different ways to control your assets. And we simply have to choose the correct ones for us, right?
So basically, what you're saying is that it's not even Web 2.5 versus Web 3. It's more, to a certain extent, I want to give a little more control to a platform by giving away some control over my assets. And I can understand that this can be the case for something casual like a video game or whatever. What I do want to keep my control for anything that could be like cryptocurrencies, for example, right? Uh,
Yeah.
to a certain extent, that is like the Google, the login with Google account approach to me. It's like the definition of Web 2.5. I don't know if you agree with that.
Well, Google is totally Web 2. I'm not sure what you mean Web 2.5. Like, does it have
I
any
mean, I
element of
mean,
decentralization?
because what you did basically, you did interact with a
Oh,
Web3
sorry. In that
application
in that context, yes, definitely.
in that context.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Look on the screen now. You will see a few floating images, and one is the number of Web3 wallets we do have today. It's over 100, and just a bunch of the main ones. But again, I always say that that this could be a real barrier for Web3 because yeah, they're clumsy. They're hard to use. And again, another problem is even for us that we are a little more um, accustomed to the Web3 experience. there's always a risk that you can lose everything if you lose the seed phrase. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Ellie, let's go back to you. What do you think is the best approach when it comes to evangelizing about Web3? Web3, a total Web3 route, or like in this case, a more Web2 slash Web3 approach?
Well, I don't really think we should be evangelizing, right? If you're like running after people, telling them something's a good idea, then how good is your idea in a way? Like I think what GPT did very well is just coming out with something useful. So in what I do, I try to put some elements of blockchain, some elements of Web3, and put it in a way that is useful. So I think it's really useful to collect art, and it's really useful to have this kind of collector mindset. It's very good for mental health. It's a great hobby. So, I'm trying to create digital collectibles so that it's not just a JPEG, but it's something that is yours and you have some form of ownership over, and some form of agency over. And I'm hoping that will be useful. But then it's like if you're talking to people of something that's really abstract and that it doesn't really make sense to them, then they're just not ready. So I guess the way I go about it is I try to talk about it with people who are ready to hear about it, because I feel like now, especially when you go around talking about Web3 to people who don't want to be in it, you're just going to rub them the wrong way, if that makes sense.
So do you think the problem is that because that's that's an interesting angle. I never thought about it that way. Do you think that it's the lack of, let's say, like a killer application in Web3, so we still have to a certain extent, convince people to move to Web3, or do you think that you can do interesting stuff on Web3, but there is this huge uh, blocker in entering the space because of the complexity of wallets, for example? That is, what Luca was saying, basically.
Right? There is a complexity, and people don't like complexity in the age of Google sign up and double tap. And, people are just not like to go through that kind of complexity. You need to have a real willingness to do it, and at least a real use case, and prove to people that, okay, this is going to be way better. But for me, it's like, would you have been using Uber if you had to go through crazy gets your Uber? Or do you like the fact that it's easy? You open your Uber app, you request a car, it arrives, it's easier. Like innovation is
Mm.
supposed to make things easier for people. If you're just making things more complicated just because it also works with Web3, it's like something works just fine, but hey, it also works with Web3, so let's go through all those complicated things just for to make it Web3, then it doesn't make sense, right? If you're not making
Yeah.
something easier, then what are you doing? Why are you changing something to make it more difficult just to be able to say,
Mm.
hey, they joined us in the fight? The fight for what?
Yeah, but let me rephrase that. So there is a video. I cannot show it here, otherwise we'll get a YouTube copyright strike. There is an interesting video that I always use that as an example. That is Bill Gates at the David Letterman show. I think it's 97, something like that, and he's trying to explain the internet to David Letterman, right? And the funny thing is that everything he says, David Letterman comes back to that and said, look, okay, but that is not really changing anything. It's just an overcomplication of stuff that we already have. Because at some point, like Bill Gates says, you know what, you can listen to a baseball game over the internet. And David Letterman said, yeah, but we got the radio for that, right? And it makes sense. Like if you look at it now, I said, okay, this Bill Gates guy is crazy. Now, what I think what he wasn't able to predict was the different application of the web. So, do you think that to a certain extent we don't really know yet what will change in Web3? And we are trying to lure people into Web3 by using more uh, Web2 examples. And in that case, I totally agree with you that it is we're giving if we are giving exactly the same experience that you can have in Web2, why overcomplicate that? Do you think that there is a lack of vision on what could be different on Web3?
No, it's just early adoption. Like I think Bill Gates, who is not, he's super techie. He's super techie guy. So he could just see things that other people couldn't see, and he was trying to convince them to see what he sees, but he couldn't, right? So at the time, the people were like, "Why would I do that?" And then,
Hmm.
porno arrived on the internet, and then you see, oh wow, with a click, I can watch a porn movie. Great. I don't need to go to the store and feel stupid and be awkward. I can just click and watch. Oh, I can make new friends with MSN. You know what I mean? Then there's all those applications that arrived. And for me, when I understood, I didn't care. I didn't give two shits about Bitcoin or crypto. I did not care. Like, I was not interested in that. But when I saw that an artwork was sold for $69 million, a digital artwork, and that before NFTs, that digital artwork was worth nada, was just a JPEG that you could replicate to the thousands. And I was like, whoa, now all those people who are in those boring jobs at companies doing design and who are artists and who are making digital art that's worthless, they have a way of making it a unique art piece. And then it clicked. And then I took it from there. But I think you need an in that touches you personally, right? That you're really solving a problem that you can see. And as long as you don't see that, as long as you don't have this problem that can be solved with Web3, or you don't see this problem and then you see how Web3 can solve it, it just doesn't make much sense.
I think I do have the solution to evangelize people. I think it came to me. Thank you, Ellie, because you were the inspiration. So let's say tomorrow all the pornography will be on Web3. So in order to watch pornography, you need to have a wallet. I'm pretty sure that the adoption rate will go over the roof.
What I
That's a
think
dirt.
is like with the metaverse could be a great way, just like you had OnlyFans. So then you could go from like being on the streets, and having to be like a prostitute, which is pretty intense, in terms of choices, to being able to make an income from the comfort of your home, just with a webcam, without any creep touching you, without any like risk of getting an STD. You know what I mean? So then
Yeah.
that allowed a lot more people, a lot more women and men to make an income from like charm without having to go in the streets. And
Yeah.
I see with the metaverse, there's a whole new layer of that now where you're going to be able to do a lot of cool stuff in avatar form. And then it's kind of useful. It provides something, it solves a problem, it makes sense. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
my thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's interesting because like I published something on LinkedIn today. You can see it on my screen right now, and that is this Spanish agency just created this AI model that's already doing like 10K a month, and I can see that I was reading an article the other day of this OnlyFans creator, and she said, you know what, I created a digital twin of myself with generative AI, and she's making the hard work for me. And I do agree with you that to a certain extent, this could really be the end of exploitation in the porn industry, for example. So it's a more ethical way to fulfill a need that we do have, and it will be stupid not um, to say that we do in a more ethical way. So that's really interesting. So Salman, let's go to you. Do you think because and I think Ellie's right. With generative AI, we do have so many killer applications now, and we know that if you want to have that, you need to go and use and learn how to use ChatGPT, for example, or Midjourney or whatever, right? But maybe we do not have a killer application in Web3 yet, or are we just not seeing the possible future applications and implications of Web3? Oh, Salman disappeared. Oh,
I mean,
let's just run it.
I think AI has gone through waves too, right? So, like a few years ago, I remember there was this whole AI, and nobody gave a shit, and people were like, "You don't understand AI." It's like, I don't care, and we were like, okay, those weirdos with AI, whatever. But then GPT, you know what I mean? Like, it's gonna come,
Ellie,
but
let me rephrase that. Do you think that to a certain extent, like if people like you and me and Luca, we look at technology, and even if it's not solving a problem, if it's like if we can actually see the possible implications, so it's cool for us because it kind of can change the paradigm. But for most people, if it's not solving a problem, that's totally useless. So I understand your point, and we've been talking about AI for like 70 years now. But like my mother started using AI last year because of OpenAI and ChatGPT, because now it is solving a problem that is, give me a recipe for uh, the this good spaghetti that I wanna make, right? So do you think again, it's a very human thing. For us is what we can do. For other people is it really making my life better or easier? Would you agree with the statement?
well, I came into Web3 because of the art and the ability to make money from digital arts, and that's why, like, it was a problem that I understood it. But for me, I don't know how you guys came into Web3, but for me, I needed that kind of practical use case for the neurons to connect and for me to start
Mm,
giving a shit about the tech. And once I started giving a shit from that kind of problem space, then I saw all the other abilities. But it if you came to me talking about Web3 without me understanding why it's solving a big problem, I wouldn't have clicked, you know.
okay, got it. So for you, basically, this was the entrance on Web3, right?
Yeah, exactly. That thing. I was like, okay, now I
Uh,
get it. Now I understand blockchain. Now I understand, what it is.
okay.
And then I got in, right? Because then the barrier to entry is pretty high. So that motivated me to get through that barrier. And from there, I was just like hooked, and I fell in love with it. But
Mm,
there was a reason.
okay. That is my next question. Look, I'm going to save this question for later. Let's go to Salma. Salma, sorry, we lost you for a
Yeah,
second. And
yeah,
so it I don't know if you remember the question. I don't remember the question.
yeah.
Ha!
All right. I was saying, just to add on to what the fellow experts were talking about, I say whether or not to go for Web3 or Web 2.5 depends on each industry. It's industry specific because in each industry, the human behavior is different. And based off of that, you've got a lot of sub niches that maybe are ready or are not ready for Web3. So, with that being said, if we talk in general, humans take the road with least friction. It's great to test out the applications of Web3 within a specific niche, but at the end of the day, what we want is mass adoption for everything we're building, are we not? Or do we not?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Uh, to reach mass adoption, you have to take people through the easiest way, and I think that's what Ellie was talking about here. We don't have to over complexify everything. Let's give an example here. For example, the platform we're building, meta designers. If I were to tell people, right, go in there, make a wallet. You have to do this, and that in order to start using the platform. I don't think a lot of people would be willing to go through the struggle. They just keep on using the Web 2 based companies that they're already using that Whether or not are exploiting their data or not, that's not even a concern to them. So what I'm trying to say here is that in order to bring in Web3 to the current web, we need to find the approach that leads to least friction and then slowly start integrating Web3 into their lives. At the end of the day, we're still at the very, very early part in Web3.
But do you think, because to a certain extent, Ed, I'm 44, and I do remember that a very similar conversation was made around Web 1 in the mid or late 90s. So do you think that is also a narrative problem, like the way we talk about Web3? Do you think there's something wrong in the way we talk about Web3? Do you think we're overcomplicating stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, we most definitely are. A lot of experts are more busy talking about buzzwords. And I think I was commenting on a post by Luca today. Actually, we got into this in the comment section on LinkedIn. The experts are way too busy speaking in complex terms that make them sound smart, that they forget that there are people out there who need to understand the end product of what they're talking about. How does this make my life easier? Right? That's all that people are concerned about.
Hmm. I don't remember who said that, but I think there's like a psychological, and Ellie, maybe you can help me out on that. I think there's a psychological effect when people that don't necessarily understand what they're talking about, they use like very complex terms. And usually that's an indicator they do not understand what they're talking about. Uh,
Yeah.
but I do agree with you. Like, yeah, I totally agree with you. I think part of the problem is, but look, go back to the 90s, Ellie, and stick with me for 1 second. Go back to the 90s, and the way we were talking about the internet was super complex. People didn't understand why they had to move to this super complicated platform because it was not making their life easier. Do you think like you see like a connection with the Web3 landscape today?
Most definitely, most definitely. Um, to put things into context, what we are talking about, whether it's the blockchain or wallets or the metaverse or immersive technologies or digital twin technology or whatever type of technology we talk about or discuss anywhere in the world, it's going to be part of our day-to-day lives at some point. But there has to be that factor, right, that pushes the mass to go ahead and adopt it and start using it on a day-to-day basis. And if we don't find a way to make them interested in it and to show them the true value of it in their day-to-day lives, I think mass adoption is going to take a bit more time than expected.
Yeah, makes sense. It makes sense. But that is exactly what Ellie was saying with AI. Like we didn't give a shit up until the moment that it started solving problems. So Luca, let's go back to you. Why let's try to walk into the shoes of a company, right? Or a brand. Is there anything marketing wise that we can do today on Web3 that we cannot do on Web2?
In travel, you mean, or general?
Yeah. Well, let's go in travel. And if you do not have any examples,
Uh-huh.
we go to general.
I think there is, of course, you need to be forward looking and you know that you are experimenting with things, but there are things which you can do with Web3 which are not even conceivable in Web2. And an example is loyalty, right? I can, as a company, I can give you something for the first time in 30 years online. So before Web3, I couldn't give you any digital asset. Whatever I gave you, like points or miles or whatever, they were on my server. So before Web3, I would give you something, but it's in my server, right? So I'm not actually giving you anything. I'm just recognizing that you have some kind of right to use those points or those miles, right? That's
Well, wait,
Web2.
wait.
Web,
To a
yeah.
certain extent, that is also true with the booking, with the like a room booking. That I'm just giving you an
Exactly.
ID, right?
yeah, I kind of recognize a claim you have on something, but I have full control on it, and you can do only what I allow you to do. That's Web 2, all right? Web 3 changes this because the moment I give you an NFT, I can't take it back, right? It's in your wallet. It's gone from me. Even if I created this NFT, I cannot get it back, right? So
Yeah.
it changes the way the internet works, right? So what can I do today as a company uh, to leverage this? Well, again, I have to experiment, but for instance, I could start giving out NFTs, which represent you being a customer, you being a past guest, right? And then I can send you NFTs for free breakfast and stuff like this. Um, this wasn't even conceivable before, right? And because these NFTs I give you, you could, being NFTs, you could sell them on the secondary marketplace. And secondary marketplaces are another concept which give extra value to what they give you, like miles or points. Imagine you could sell your miles from Star Alliance. So today you get miles when you travel with an airline, and unless you reach a certain number of miles per year, they are totally useless, right? Imagine if I give you 1,000 miles, which is nothing, but you can sell them for $10, right? That
Okay.
completely changes the dynamic of how the internet works. So to answer your question, yeah, we can do things already today which were not possible before. It's only in this moment it's very experimental, so it's not going to be done by for the masses. But you see, Lufthansa, for instance, launched something very nice. They launched some NFTs representing your past trips with them, past flights, and then if you collect enough of them, you get some perks like access to the business lounge or stuff like this. So definitely, the answer is yes. It's not easy, so it's something you have to do if you really want to be at the forefront. But you can do many things. Yes.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is what is changing is really the internet paradigm of ownership.
Yeah, I think that the big what we need to understand, Web3 is not something which is, let me put this in a metaphor, right? So we are all looking at the sky waiting for the next meteorite, right? Because 10 years ago, I don't know, Airbnb came or Booking.com appeared from the sky and it completely changed the travel industry, right? So we're looking at the
Yeah.
sky and we don't realize that the next thing is not a meteorite, is a tectonic shift. Things are changing under our feet as we speak, right? And they are very slow, right? Until at a certain moment, the two continents break and completely separate, right? So the way we have to get ready for this Web3 revolution, which is going to come but never comes, is by looking at the internet, how it is and how it's changing. So the internet is below us. We're building businesses on top of it, right? It's not going to
Yeah.
be an app, right, coming from the sky. The app coming from the sky is going to be, the famous killer app is going to be the first uh, representation, which is easy to see and is very fast because it's falling. And we finally we understand what Web3 is, but it's already happening. It's been happening for 10 years already, right?
Yep.
So I think the big mistake is thinking that Web3 is a bunch of new apps coming out. No, Web3 is completely changing the very thing all our businesses and lives are based on, which is the internet itself.
Okay, makes sense. Ellie, do you think there's anything marketing wise that we can do today in Web3 that we cannot do in Web2?
Yes, so first of all, I really love what Luca said, and it kind of reminds me of this like adoption curve, right? You have the early adopters who are gonna go for it even though it's clunky because they get the tech and that kind of they just love that. And and then they're really wanting to use the tech and they're finding applications like the miles, etc. And then it works because they make it work and they're paving the way for a wider adoption. So I completely agree with that point that, changing ownership. And that's really what got me into. I understood that you own nothing on the internet.
Mm,
I go on
yeah.
my bank account, and then the bank, it's a number in the bank. They can change the number, and I don't have any more money. I anywhere you go, any website you go, you can collect points, like, but it's dependent. You have that dependency on whatever website it is. I go on Reddit and I collect a ton of karma points. If Reddit says go away, your karma points don't exist, except for a lawsuit, I don't have agency, I don't have power over that. So same with video games. So that's what I also really, really love about it, is that idea of ownership. And for now, like in terms of marketing, I think Web3 and crypto is a really, really strong community, and a community that grows and grows, and a community of dreamers, of people who want a better world, of people who want people to have more agency over themselves and their assets, and really beautiful community to market to. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
kind of like do a little wink to, and then you get a lot of cool potential customers. But at the same time, for marketing, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's like a marketing trick that is like, oh, use a Web3 for this and you're going to have amazing marketing. Like for me, it still has to be useful. And the miles thing is like, yeah, it's useful and it's painless for the user at the end of the day. So that's
Yeah.
really if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And talking about centralization, just on the room, you can see it now. This is something that maybe you don't know about MySpace. That is very interesting to me. And it does highlight a lot of the problems with centralization. And during a server migration, MySpace lost 14 million artists' songs posted before 2016. So I always say that if you do create something on Web2, it's not going to be on Web2 forever. Nothing is going to be on the Web2 forever. So that's problematic, especially when it comes to marketing. So again, it's more a paradigm shift, if anything. It's and I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to use Web3 um, approaches to solve Web2 problems, while we should probably focus more on Web3 approaches to solve Web2 problems. And so I'm going to ask the same question to Salman. Salman, do you think there's anything, let's start with travel, that we can do marketing wise in Web3 that we cannot do in Web2?
Yeah, I mean the points aspect that Luca was talking about, the application is a beautiful application. I feel like room night tokens are great to use as well, to be kept as souvenirs. There's also a lot that can be done at the level of creating augmented reality experiences for hotels and for the travel industry at the moment, because it really helps the audience understand more of what the brand is about and what the brand creates and what the experience entails. And it's also a very easy to use experience when we talk about AR, as it can be accessed from something that we always have in our hands, and that's our phone. So there's a lot of things that can be tested out, and I completely agree with the aspect of control. But in my opinion, we should go for, when we talk mass adoption, for the applications that have the smallest barrier to entry, or the easiest barrier to entry.
That makes all sense. Okay, guys, we are at the 45 minutes mark. Thank you very much. This was very interesting, and again, I think it's time to talk about how to use Web3 and how to a certain extent, implement also Web2 approaches into Web3 marketing strategies. So I would go with the last question, and that would be, Luca, tell me a little more about what is the best way to get in touch with you, both for what you're doing, and the podcast, and all the projects you're working on. And if you've got a final statement of the day, highlighting Web3 and the marketing space, especially when it comes to the travel space?
Yeah, Twitter or X, Trip Luca, so TRIP Luca with a C. And as a final statement regarding Web3 marketing in travel, I say look at, and I know it's hard, but look at what's happening in DeFi. You may not be interested in decentralized finance, but every marketing, or also NFTs, every marketing trick, every marketing strategy we will use in travel in the future is being used today already there. So there's a lot to learn there. And once you see this in action, you understand how different it is from Web2 marketing. It's a completely different approach. Fascinating.
Do you think because basically DeFi starts on the blockchain, so it does make sense that marketing something that is being on chain forever, it's kind of natural that it starts on Web3, or do you think that we can learn something even though we come from an industry that is not only it's not Web3, it's not even Web1, it's a very classic industry to a certain extent.
Well, simply, blockchain has found its first application other than pure speculation in DeFi 3 years ago now. Then NFTs a couple of years ago, right? So it's just simply industries for which Web3 has found a way to be useful. When travel starts getting there, we're going to have probably the same kind of approach, so we can learn a lot. So why? I don't know. Basically, because finance is all about value, and crypto is all about native value on the internet.
Yeah.
So I guess that was like kind of obvious in retrospect, but yeah, a lot to learn there.
Well, thank you so much, Luca. So if you want to get in touch, these are the contacts, and look into DeFi for ideas on how to use Web3 marketing strategies in our industry. Ellie, what is the best way to get in touch with you? And if you do have a final statement.
Yes, so thank you so much, guys, for putting this together. It was so you. You can just find me on my website, conspicuous.com, or on LinkedIn, conspicuous, or on Discord, or I have all social type conspicuous wherever, and you will find me.
Mhm. Okay, thank you so much. And Salman, so what is the best way to get in touch with you? And if you do have final statement.
Thanks for having me, Simone. The best way to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn, Salman Halawi. And my final statement is that no matter what problem you're solving, you must focus on removing friction and you will gain adoption.
That's a great one, especially in our industry where we do have like a ton of friction. So that's great. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking with me today, and thank you for all the viewers connected online and on the metaverse. We'll go live again in around 3 weeks. So the next episode will be the 20th of December. We're going to talk about travel decentralization, NFT, blockchain, and the future of the industry. Luca, you will be with us again. And then we will got Justin Zekansky. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I always got problem with his name. And Roberto Garavaglia, one of the most, if not the most, knowledgeable guy when it comes to NFT in Southern Europe. So thank you so much. Stay in touch, and as always, decentralize at Impera. Ciao, guys.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye, guys. Thank you, everyone.